Just kidding. Just kidding. Any questions?
First 20-plus games since Christmas Day.
Damn. No,
What opened up for you?
just staying aggressive, staying true to myself, reading the game, teammates finding me, coaches putting me in a position to, score, and, just had a good day.
What goes into the teammates finding you part of that equation? Because that seems to be a big part of it, is them reading you and when you're cutting and when you're breaking.
Yeah, again, it's about teamwork. So, me setting good screens, being active, being aggressive, but then, at the same time, them respecting that and finding me. But, it's a two-way street, isn't just one. So, again, it's just connecting, talking, communication, and, playing with each other.
Is it safe to say that there's an element of sort of freelancing or freestyling to your game, kind of going with the flow of things?
Yeah, no, definitely. Again, I'm not, a player that's gonna, get like, 5 isolations a game and, play that way. My style is about, being aggressive, being a two-way presence for the team, being that energy, the connector. And, there's gonna be games like this, and it's about, staying the course and just trusting, my teammates, the coaches, everyone around me.
With that in mind, does that sort of place a premium on that communication, that on-court relationship with these guys, just knowing when you're going to be, where you're going to be?
Yeah, again, I think, at the end of the day, we all want to win, and I'm a winning player. So, again, communication's key on both sides of the court. And, it's just talking things through. It's not always going to be perfect. But, when you go into it with a, free mind, there's going to be easy stuff to find there.
Tell us what went through your head when you saw Keldon rip that pass away in the fourth quarter and head down the floor, and you were on the floor.
Yeah. First of all, that's great defense. I think, he came in that fourth and, create an impact straight away on the defensive side. That's, something we really needed at the time. And, me and KJ, this is my, third year with him. I feel like we're the energy guys on this team. So I knew straight away he's going to, pass it. So I kind of jumped early. We was actually just talking about it in the locker room. But I think, we see each other really well, on and off the court. And, that's my guy.
Who jumped higher, you for the alley-oop or Keldon when he was celebrating?
The Keldon. He was going crazy.
Is there ever a moment where anyone on the team has more energy than he does?
I don't think so. Maybe Blake in the locker room. Sometimes he'd be wilding in a good way. But nah, not really.
Can you talk about that group of defenders you guys have between you, Steph, Blake? You mentioned Keldon earlier. Kind of how you guys have been able to rely on that, last couple of games or so.
Yeah, again, I think it's, respecting the gods, and it's not all about offense. There's, that side. And, recently we haven't been the greatest on defense. So I think, it's just putting pride into that. And, again, there's so much that goes into it. Communication, being on the, on the same rotation, just wanting it, the physical part, the mental part. And, I think that's what we, trying to, take pride in. And, defense creates offense, and, it's an easy bucket. So, it's a really, valuable part of the, the game.
Steph's development up close and personal, is there a particular moment that stood out to you where you were like, he's really good at what he does?
Every time he drives the ball, he finds a way, either to, score it or pass it. Just how athletic he is, but also the way he can slow down and, be calm. But there isn't one particular, play or game that I realized that. I think it's been the whole season and how consistent he's been. Whenever he's got the chance, he's, excelled it. So, props to him coming into the league first year and having that consistency is amazing to see. So I'm super excited for, what's to come for him.
He had 14 assists tonight. Do you think he's got the Rookie of the Year wrapped up?
Has it been a question? Like I feel like, there's no one else on the ladder or even in his class that should, get it. So I think it's his for sure.
How have you seen him grow as a? He's proven himself as a scorer pretty repeatedly, but how have you seen him grow as someone who can acknowledge when guys are open and when defenses are loading up against him to spread it?
I think every game, the game's becoming slower for him, and he's been able to see, and it's amazing how how much he brings, how much intention he brings when he's driving. And he's been looking for the kickouts, and it's wide open threes and cuts for other players. So I think that's one of the gifts he has. He's one of those players where on the scout they're gonna see that he's gonna drive, but he's collecting so many other players on the other team with him. So it's for us to be in the right places for him to make the pass and capitalize on that. So no, I've definitely seen that, and he can do both.
Also really seemed to find his rhythm tonight, and he had impact on both sides of the floor. From your perspective, what stood out to you about Devin's performance?
Yeah, again, he's been really aggressive recently, and I think he's one of our greater shooters. So when he's got that going, and just how aggressive he's been, even driving to the rim, there's not a lot of players that can stop him in this league. So it's been great to watch, and it's entertaining at the end of the day, and he adds value to this team. So it's been great.
Something that Steph said earlier is that specifically tonight he kind of felt able to play free. Is that something you guys are all striving for, just that feeling of being free and just playing basketball?
100%. Again, I think that's when you play the best brand of basketball you can play. Sometimes, when you get in your head or you start, second guessing yourself, that's when you make mistakes, turnovers, miss, layups, miss, opportunities to be aggressive on both sides of the court. So I think when you have that mindset, it adds value to the team, and if the whole team has that, I think that's the greatest part of it, and hopefully that's what we're striving for, and it's a process at the end of the day, but yes, we're gonna get there.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Good night.